Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Stock Market Outlook video brought to you by DeepView. That's the platform that you see right here, and it's my daily driver for charting, screening, watch lists, alerts, and a lot more. We just introduced some exciting new indicators, one of which I'll talk through a little bit today, and we've got a lot in the pipeline coming up, so definitely go ahead and check it out, deepview.com. It's linked down below in the description. As always, today we'll run through the market indexes, then we'll talk a little bit about rotation, leading industry groups, and I'll cover kind of the overall state of the market, and we'll also run through a bunch of names from my wide watch list. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. And if you do enjoy this, please go ahead and remember to leave a like down below. I'd really appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't yet and want to see more videos just like this one every single week. So with that said, let's dive right in and start with the NASDAQ 100 ETF, the QQQ, and walk through this week. So last week was extremely strong. We saw the indexes as well as many leading names get a little bit short-term extended. The expectation is we might see some sideways action, some pullback, which we definitely saw here. Even on the 31st here, on this day right here, we saw a close off highs, subtle signs of distribution here, or just a pause, consolidation, some profit taking. Then we had a gap up and a poor close. We did close off lows. But obviously when we gap up and basically go outside day, it's never super constructive. But the next day we did have just pretty much a consolidation day within this range. Pretty much we undercut the low slightly, but everything was normal. And then this day right here, Wednesday, is where we saw some distribution come into the markets. And we pulled back all the way to this prior pivot, which I mentioned could be a logical spot where we could see some support. This also lines up with the 50-day SMA area as well as the 21 EMA area. So there's a little bit of confluence here in this spot. And we did get a nice kind of reversal upwards, decent close. But the next day we saw a gap down, but a strong close. At this point, we're in a short-term downtrend, but we have 1 day of constructive action with a promising close right at the key moving averages. Then on Friday, we had an attempted move up and then a poor close finishing near the open as well as the prior day's close. So at the moment, we're right at this key level, both this high as well as the 50-day 21 EMA, and we could kind of go either way at this point. We're in a short-term downtrend, a little bit of, 1.5 days of counter trend rally upwards, and we'll just have to see what happens. If I bring up the 5-day simple, we're below that at this point. And if I go ahead and draw an anchored VWAP from this, you can see it lines up perfectly with this high, not necessarily a coincidence. So we'll have to see what happens. We're still within this longer term consolidation period. We had a nice move up, showing some strength, showing some power, and now a pullback within that. And we're right at those moving averages. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's been a little bit choppy on the indexes, but individual names have acted a little bit stronger. And we'll go through that later on today as we run through a bunch of names from my wide watch list. Bringing it up to IWO. This gives you kind of a better sense of a lot of what growth stocks and smaller caps are doing. And this looks a lot weaker. You can see we had that same rally, same subtle distribution signs, profit taking. It failed at that 50-day SMA, and basically the rest of the week was pretty negative, and we're closing right near lows. So this could give a little bit of a clearer picture than the QQQ, which is more mega cap weighted. So some reasons for caution based on this index. We're below declining 21 EMA, declining 50 SMA, still within this longer consolidation and near the lows of that consolidation. So based on this index, which again is much more smaller cap minded, more caution is warranted. And we're still in that, short-term downtrend, especially, in the past 5 days. And we're below that declining 21 EMA, which to me is always kind of the best indication of, can I make progress in the markets? Are we above a rising trending 21 EMA during this period here, and during periods in the past? When we're below it, it's a lot harder to make progress. We're a lot choppier, more volatile, and it's tougher to position with tight risk management, which is the name of the game as traders. So that's pretty much it for the indexes. QQQ looks a lot better, but the IWO gives some reason to be cautious for sure. And we'll have to see what direction we take. I think we'll get a clear move next week. We're right at this key level at the moving averages as well as this high, and we'll have to see what happens. Potentially this is a lower high compared to this high, and if we see distribution bars and we take out this low, that would say we need a lot more time and we need to, form out this base a lot more, maybe have a double bottom, retest these lows. Obviously, those are just potential things that could happen. We always take it day by day and analyze rather than predict, but it's good to have some expectation and know your plan. If we continue to move higher and stocks act well, you should have a plan. You should have a watch list that you should, have already set up. But if we take out these lows, you should have risk management in place and maybe some potential short sale ideas, but have a plan either way. So when it comes to rotation, I'll go over to my stock market outlook article, which I post daily now. I post a little daily brief, completely free. I'll have the link down below and popping up right now. But every week I also touch on kind of weekly rotation and share the chart from Traderline Private Access. And this week you can see the performance of all these different groups. It's a pretty clear trend. Software was the key standout. Also, cybersecurity stood out as well. The existing leadership, oil and gas, biopharma, those trends remain pretty strong. And this is confirmed not only with this chart, but also if you screen through names, you can clearly see that trend. For instance, down here, I share the DFU universe list, sorted, not shorted, by weekly percentage gain. And you can see the clear themes: package software, aerospace, that's been strong, biotech, another package software, oil, pharma, oil, package software, some more oil names, MPC, Velo. We'll take a look at those charts in just a second. They've been very strong, but maybe are a little bit short-term extended. So, there's a few ways to get a sense of rotation. You can take a look at ETFs. You can take a look at groups top-down approach, which is kind of like this, or you can take a look at your screen results and use that and let the stocks point you towards the rotation. I kind of do a hybrid approach where I check out this from Traderline, as well as, in my screen, I make sure to note down any trends that I see. So hopefully that's helpful, and let me know any additional themes that you saw as well during your weekend routines. So with that, let's bring up some stocks here, and let's start with those oil and gas names. Let's bring up Velo, bring up that chart. Really nice breakout. Energy names, always a little bit tougher to trade. Just a little bit more choppy in my experience. And but you've got a clear, pivot through these highs. Nice action this day, follow through and base breakout on this day. And we'll see if we get follow through here. And what would be constructive action is tight, pullbacks, a few days, short-term flags, and reconfirmations to the upside, letting it trend above that 21 EMA. And I do want to mention a little bit the RMV indicator, which we just added last week. This is something that I developed. I'm pretty proud of this. It's something that I haven't really seen before. And as I'll mention, we'll be able to scan for it very soon, only in deep view. And what it is basically a relative measure of the current volatility. So what it's looking for is identifying tight price action relative to prior movements. And anytime it gets close to zero or under, I've got this around 15 and then 7.5. Anytime it gets very low, under 10, close to zero, price action is getting relatively tight. And anytime it gets close to 100, price is expanding. So we're looking for those tight areas. We're looking for spots where RMV, the relative volume, is under 10. And you can see that going back. It depends on the price pattern, of course, but it's a pretty good indicator. Let me bring up ROIV. This was another good breakout last week. You can see it identified the tight area back in this area, went pretty much to zero. Yep, went right to zero. And then right before this breakout, which was probably one of the best breakouts I saw last week, we got it very tight for a few days. So this works pretty darn well, and it'll be super easy to scan by and come up with a great list of tight areas very soon. I'm looking forward to creating a screen that incorporates RMV under 15 or under 10, as well as within a few percent of that 21 EMA. That's kind of my preferred setup. That's where I find a lot of success. And it's where a lot of these type of moves can happen, where once you've got that tight area, you can set your pivots, whether it's at some relevant highs, the high of the range, and look to buy as it pushes through that on volume. That's how I like to use this indicator. But for beginner traders who are not used to looking for tight areas and maybe subtly tight areas, you can see it's getting pretty tight even in this area. This will help kind of confirm what to look for. And for more experienced traders, it can provide kind of an objective confirmation of what they're seeing with their own eyes and they'll be able to screen for tight areas and VCPs, which hasn't really been possible before. And another example, I'll bring up SMCI. Let's bring this up, scroll back. This is a pretty good example. This is during its base. You've got a few tight areas where it went to zero. Right before it broke out, we see it go to zero, tight, very tight action these 2 days. And then we get the nice breakout. That's what we're looking for. Expansion from the compression. It goes tight again, very tight. Looks like it was under 5 in this area. Reconfirms higher. Short flag again goes to 0 and stays tight and reconfirms higher. So this helps point this out, and it'll be really awesome when you're able to scan by it. Look how tight it gets in this area, and it goes to 0. So it's pretty darn accurate. And by default, you're using a look back period of 15 days. For more longer term traders or position traders, you might want to bump this up to 30, 40, 50. For IPO basis, specifically trading IPOs, I would say 5 is pretty good because it'll need to have 5 days of price history to take a look. But it depends on the situation a little bit. But 15 to 25 is a pretty good standard, and I keep it at 15, which is the default. So that's just a little bit about that indicator. Definitely very useful. And let's bring up MPC as well. Another oil and gas name. Here you go. You can see how tight it got right here. Look how tight RMV got, and then we get expansion from that move. Expectation breaker, gap up from this tight area, buys through these pivots, and then it even gets tight a little bit on this day right here before this final move. So these stocks have been acting very well, and if you trade this sort of thing, they've been in beautiful trends. You can see it gets tight against a 200-day moving average. This goes to 0, a reconfirmation upward, great trend, little base, tight area here, and then reconfirmation higher. So keep an eye on these oil and gas names. They're a little bit short-term extended now, but if we do get some constructive pullbacks on lower volume, definitely a spot you can focus on. So overall, I've got a list of my wide list of about 88 stocks, a little bit wider than usual. I'm casting a wide net, looking at stuff that's showing strength, looking for where rotation is going, as well as names that are setting up. Some of these need a few days, but we'll go through a few of these names and talk about the overall themes. Again, package software, that's the most common theme industry group on this list, and that's what DeepView highlights in blue, which is super helpful. And let's go through a few of these names. This one needs more time. It broke down a little bit below these lows here, but I'm watching just for a base above the 50 SMA. AB&B acting very well. Oops reversal on this day, and nice action on this day as well. ACHR, again, gets really tight. This goes to 0, and you could have bought the pivot right here. Nice subtle pivot that RMV highlights. Adobe, not the best action on Friday, gap up and sell off, but still above this pivot, so I'll be watching this one. Autodesk getting tight over here on the right-hand side. You can see that in the RMV as well. AHR, again, kind of forming a handle. It's getting tighter again on the RMV, and I'd love to see the 21 EMA kind of catch up to price. Affirm, super powerful off these lows, and now getting tight. Could use a few more days, but nice constructive action on Thursday and Friday. AKAM, also tightening a little bit. This looks pretty similar to D-Low. And let's kind of jump through because there is a lot of names on this list and highlight some key names. BKNG, this is getting tight over here on the right-hand side. Pushed higher a little bit on Friday, but overall within this range. BP, a lot of the oil and gas names moved up, going sideways here. Some are short-term extended. It kind of depends on what you're looking at. This is a little bit choppy. And let's scroll through here. Caterpillar, slower mover for sure, but getting tight on the right-hand side. CrowdStrike, as I mentioned, the cybersecurity names have been acting pretty strong. This could use, short-term pullback. You've got the prior base. Let's draw that base pivot around this area. So I'd love to see a low relative volume pullback in here, especially if the market continues to pull back. That'd be very constructive, but maybe we just get an oops reversal, gap down, strong close, and that way you can manage risk versus that low. CVNA, more of a swing trade type name, but pulling into the 21 EMA. Ideally, it tightens again. Dash, this is setting up constructively. Nice action here. Still forming an overall base, but could look for an early entry. D-Low, going sideways here. Definitely watching this one. Hopefully the 21 EMA catches up to price. Duolingo, this had a nice move off the bottom. I'd love to see a handle form in this case and see volume kind of dissipate a little bit and then tighten up, and then ideally we get a breakout bar to the upside. FRSH, not a great bar on Friday, 100%. And this to me suggests there'll be further downside, but if we don't get that, if we hold near this area, that's a little bit of an expectation breaker. So I'll keep an eye on this name, and it is a promising IPO, which is starting to move up the right hand side. We had a base breakout through this level, so I'll be watching this. You can see the price expansion shown on the RMV after we got really tight in this area, and this went to zero. Google acting pretty well. The mega caps are acting pretty well outside of Apple, which is a little bit gappy, but this is acting quite well. IONQ got nice and tight in this area. This was on the watch list last week and still below this base pivot, so ideally it forms a range, but this is acting well, held at 21 EMA. KD is setting up again. Ideally gets tight a little bit more, but definitely one to watch in this space. Data processing services, they've been acting pretty well. IoT, I ideally want this to tighten a little bit more. And tomorrow in my weekly watch list video, I'll go through kind of the ones I'm specifically focused on for next week. My weekly focus list, this is kind of the wide list full of kind of developing stocks as well as ones that just caught my eye. MNDY, watching to see how the space develops, is definitely a little bit choppy, but seeing how it acts. Okta, another kind of a cybersecurity name. If you hover over this, you can see a little bit about the company. That had a nice gap up after earnings. Let's take a look at that. So nice EPS surprise, 10 cents, growth 410%. If we open up the stats table here, you can also hover over this and see that same info. But really nice action, getting tight here on the right-hand side, as you see by the RMV. RVN, this is interesting for next week, tightening up, a low cheat entry through around 23, 24. Let's see if there's any others that are really specifically what I want to call out. Tesla still in this range, could go either way. Not the best action on Friday, not the best close, but we'll see if it can hold above 240. Uber acting well, nice action here. Pull back to the moving averages again. This is a consolidation pivot right here around 47.81, and you could look for maybe an inside day and get a little bit of a tighter entry through those highs. VRT acting pretty well, just a beautiful trend that it's been on. It's a little bit later in the run, but still a super strong stock. XP, just watching the base here, and it's had a nice move. That's why I'm watching the base. This wide list is just kind of full of developing stocks, prior leaders, and it just allows me to keep an eye on rotation throughout the market. And lastly, we've got ZS, another cybersecurity name, right at the base pivot. So ideally, we get a tight area, a spot where you can manage risk, and then a nice breakout through highs. This will likely be on the focus list. So that's kind of it. We've covered today indexes, rotation industry groups, as well as some of these names. Hopefully this helps you get a sense of rotation, as well as get some pretty good ideas that I mentioned here. Package software, to me, definitely kind of showed itself last week. This one looks primed again, kind of a low cheat area. So keep an eye on this group and sector as a whole. SPLK, really nice action since earnings, could use a break. And keep an eye on the oil and gas names, keep an eye on cybersecurity, and let me know down below in the comments right now what stocks as well as themes you're focused on. We'll see how the overall indexes develop, and remember that even if a setup looks good, if the sector, industry group, and the market are pulling back, it's going to be tough for that stock to really make progress. So always remember that situational awareness. And on the QQQ, let's bring that back up. We're kind of in a little bit of a choppy phase right at a key level, which could break either way. And the IWO looks a lot weaker. So always remember that overall context, definitely extremely important. These are still kind of range bound, and the IWO in particular shows some weakness. So let me know your thoughts down below as well on the market. Let me know what you think about RMV. This can be found in DeepView. And again, you'll be able to screen for this. I'm super excited for this because it's going to save me a lot of time and help me, find better ideas faster. I'm always looking for those tight areas because not only are they good entry points, but they're signs of accumulation as well. So you'll be able to notice stocks tightening up at the bottom of the bases and then get that stock on your radar, track it, and find, low risk entries a little bit earlier. And so you can start your position and get at a profit, before it runs into that volatility near the full base pivot. So that's pretty much it for today. Hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, please go ahead and take the time to leave me a like down below. Really appreciate it. And I always appreciate every comment as well. I'll try to respond to as many as I can. And if you haven't yet checked out DeepView, definitely go ahead and go to deepview.com and give it a try. We're working very hard to make this the best platform out there. and I think we've got some features that no one can match, and a pretty intuitive design as well, that a lot of people have given really good feedback on. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.